Italy is in crisis mode right now as its third largest bank is headed for complete destruction. The ECB stated that there is need to get the bloodstream flowing and assist the bank back to health. As always, it seems as though the initial estimates of how much would be required for a bailout would quickly exceed that, and the bankrupt nation of Italy would have to fork out more money it simply does not have. Welcome to the grand master plan of the technocratic elite. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's look at Italy today. Let's look at Europe, and then I want to bring it outwards from there. Let's start with this. The Italian state will foot a 6.6 billion euros of the 8.8 billion euros bill for bailing out the struggling bank, the country's central bank said. The ECB citing need for, I love this word, recapitalization. Recapitalization to me means you screwed up, here's some more money for you. It's like a gambler. He just goes and spends more and more and more of his money, and somebody's on the other side saying, here, have some more chips, have some more chips. Well, eventually you end up with a lot of trouble. Raise the total capital required by more than 3 billion euros than had been judged necessary just 1 month ago. And I assure you, it's going to continue. Explaining the higher cost of the bailout, Italy's central bank in a statement said the public rescue plan was costlier than the original market solution directed at private investors. And as I said in the previous video, initially was 5 billion euro. Turns out to be a lot more than that. They want to set up funds for this. You know, we saw this a few years back. They set up the ESM, and before that, I believe it was called the EFSF, and these are always there, basically, not to support any of these institutions that actually may need help for any reason. They are there to use it to take favorable terms, not favorable for the institutions or the countries in need. It's, of course, favorable for the technocratic elite. That's the way this works. That's why they set these up. There's always terms and conditions. All right. So essentially what they said was that it's going to be very expensive, and it goes on to talk about that. What I want to cover from this is this very, very important point. The chart is out of Bloomberg. With a little help from, and it goes in, Italy debt to GDP would jump to 153% without underground and illegal economy. Whoa. Okay, so at the top line here, what we are looking at is the 153% is referring to if you change that using the drugs, using the prostitution and everything else, all this illegal stuff, it brings it down. Okay, so look at that. What you're looking at, to me, it looks like about right here, over 130%. Okay, so when you see 130% GDP, debt to GDP, you can't pay that back. It's not possible. After 100%, I mean, even less, but let's just be, generous. Even after 100%, that's it. You're done. It's impossible to pay back. The debt will simply just continue to accumulate, and it will destroy the nation. It's just the way it is. And now you're at whatever. Take a pick. 130, 150%, whatever. Doesn't matter. They're ruined. They can't pay the debt back, and they are continuously going further and further into debt. Their growth is terrible right now at this time. Look at their inflation. Very low at this time, and in a bad way. Not that, that food prices are declining or something. It's that simply that they are dying. Italy's antitrust chief has called for the EU member states to set up a network of public agencies to combat fake news. That's right. when you are about to head into a crisis, you need to ramp up the propaganda and shut down those who speak up against you. And that is what's happening globally. And this is very clear right now in Italy, as they're actually calling for that. And of course they said, we got to set up these independent bodies. Yeah, right. Independent like what? Like NATO and the G20 and the UN or the IMF and World Bank? Are these independent nations? Not at all. Not at all. It's really sad to see it, but here it is. Anyway, this whole fake news thing is going to blow up, and it's going to really accelerate. I do believe that in a very bad way. Why Spain's population is shrinking by 72 people each day. And they're talking about the decline in births, okay? Specifically 4.6%. I've noted this to be a problem, obviously, in Japan. Also in Europe. Europe is really, we're seeing the birth rates decline significantly. This, there's many reasons for this. And I do believe that the economic situation is becoming a very big burden on people. And they're feeling it. They're feeling it right now. That's very clear to me. Let's move on here to just one thing. We've been talking about the US dollar a lot and the effects of this. This was about 1 month ago, but I still feel it is relevant. You're looking at Egypt's central bank floating the pound on Thursday in an attempt to stabilize its economy, which has been hampered by a shortage of dollars. And it's interesting to see how dollars flow out of the U.S. In fact, most of the dollars not located within the U.S. They flow out of the U.S. and where they end up, it's anyone's guess, because it seems that there is a constant need for dollars around the world. That's very true. Of course, in the long term, that will change. But right now, because of that petrodollar, we know that this will remain status quo. And you have this individual in the middle of the desert apparently digging. I don't know what exactly he's looking for. The currency was initially devalued, check this out, by 32% to about 13 pounds per dollar, down from a previous peg of 8.8 per dollar, which had been in place since March. It tumbled down by another 50%. People get hurt because of currency manipulation, and the governments just simply don't care. They will destroy it. Look what Ben Bernanke said, and I'll say it 100 times. I talk about it in the new book, I think even more than once. Bernanke, 2002, said we will do everything that they did to stop the depression like it did, back in 29 and onwards. We will stop that from happening by any means necessary, and we will use all of these things. And then one of them was that they would devalue the currency by as much as 40%. You've probably read this before if you've been on the channel. I know I've shown it more than once. But Ben Bernanke's speech from 2002, he said they will devalue the dollar by 40%. And that right there shows you how far they're willing to go. When you devalue that overnight, people get crushed. But of course, they simply don't care. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. Just a very quick mention. It's something that I'm seeing a trend of right now, and it's a good thing. But Bibi Netanyahu, everyone's favorite here, apparently they are going into this months-long inquiry, trying to basically have the criminal investigation open against him. And what they were talking about here is just very specific. Suspected offenses are bribe-taking and aggravated fraud. Now, I don't necessarily think that anything is going to happen to a guy like this, but look at what happened with Brazil. Look at Argentina, look at the IMF, not just Christine Lagarde, but before that, Dominique Strauss-Kahn. We see big name people getting shut down, getting indicted, getting whatever. It could happen. It could happen anywhere. And, despite the fact that it probably should be happening more often, it's good to see at least attention brought to this. It could be all fake entirely, just to say that, look, he's a real guy and this and that, and he defeats the people who try to say that he's committing any sort of suspected offenses, basically. So, not sure what to make of it. I thought I would just show it to you there. And then I want to say, while you stare at this wonderful creature, if you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. And if you like the look of this gentleman here, just stare into those eyes. And you can give me a thumbs down if you choose to. If you found the video informative, I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. I have made this complicated subject very easy, and I do that by the use of diagrams that I've drawn up and charts as well. If you want to look through the book at Amazon, they have a look inside feature which will allow you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care. Now, if you hung in there, I wanted to quote Benito Mussolini: "The truth is that men are tired of liberty." I have a message for the late Benito Mussolini. Is that real men and women are not tired of liberty.